pathways overlap. You can see that, you know, you could be in power and energy and still learn about engineering. It just really depends on the child. And then the last pathway is global logistics, and this is the pathway that typically people are most confused about because it's not normally talked about. And the easiest way to explain it is just when you get things from point A to point B and how we do that seamlessly. And so the drone pilot is probably the career that most kids get excited about, that you can actually get paid to fly a drone. And so we kind of start with that and move into the different careers within global logistics. This is just an image of our industry partners that sit at the table on our advisory board, and we'll go over that here in a bit. So Kate Rogers, who's with Holdsworth, she really has been instrumental in ensuring that we have a sound advisory board. We do have 3 tri-chairs that I meet with in addition to the advisory board to really ensure that we hear the voice of these 3 companies who really have, I guess, the majority of the weight on the board: Toyota, HEB, and CPS. Dr. Fay, myself, Jennifer Ellison, Dr. Verstev, and Eliza Battles all serve on the board representing Southwest. We do have Dr. Flores from Palo Alto, as well as some of his team members. A&M San Antonio, we do have folks from there, and then you can see the list of our industry partners. And then Jean Russell serves as the CAST network consultant, so not just a consultant for CAST STEM, but for the entire network to ensure that we receive the support that we need. At this time, I really want to have Dr. Wilson speak to what it means to be a PBL student, a day in the life of a PBL student for CAST STEM.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner. So when you look at this is the model of the day in life of a CAST STEM student. It may not look like anything really unique, right? Because most kids in most high schools will take these courses. So it's not really about the courses that we offer, it's about how we integrate and deliver those courses. My son sits in the front seat with me this morning. You know, we were riding to school, I was dropping him off, and last night I know he had to study for biomes in his science class, and this morning, you know, he was talking about how he loves history class, you know, learning about, you know, withdrawals and deposits, you know. And so I said, son, do you know how those 2 things go together? How is it that, how do the things that you're learning in your biome class relate to what you're learning in your history class? He had a hard time trying to communicate that to me. And, you know, that's what happens to a lot of times to our students. You know, they go from one class to another class to another class. They study for this test, but they don't really stop to think about how do these things connect, right? In the real world, we work on projects, and we try to make connections in solving those problems and projects that we do. And so that's what's unique about CAST STEM, is that what we try to do is our teachers are going to plan together. So all the content is going to be aligned, all the standards will be aligned and integrated into these 6 8-week projects that our students will be involved in. And so let me give you an example. So kind of put your thinking hats on for a second. So let's say, for example, the name of the project is Project Save the Environment. A kid goes to science class, biology, and the teacher tells them that, you know, they want that student to create a cell project to solve an environmental problem like cleaning up wastewater. So the kid has to create a cell project. Well, that kid will go from the biology class to their engineering class, their introduction to IED class, and then in that class they might actually use the software there, the AutoCAD software, to build a model of that cell. Okay? When they go from their IED class, the engineering class, to their geometry class, maybe they're learning about angles or coordinate planes, right? They can then use that knowledge to understand what is the geographical area affected by this environmental problem. So they can then find out the geographical coordinates of that particular environmental problem and the impact. When they go to the robotics class, they might have to develop some sort of apparatus to help maybe deliver that model, that solution to that impacted area. And when they go to their geography class, maybe they have to think about what is the human impact, right? What is the ethical implications of my solution to the problem? When they go to their English class, they're not just going to write a 5-paragraph essay, right? They're going to now be trying to communicate their solution maybe in a technical essay, or let's say they're learning about drama or poetry, maybe they could use that as an avenue to communicate their solutions to their problem. And when they get to their foreign language class, now not only are they learning Spanish or whatever language, foreign language that they're taken, but now they're going to have to communicate their solution in that foreign somebody who speaks that foreign language. So it's really important that our kids are really integrating their learning and applying their learning to solving problems in their local environment, either locally or globally. And so that brings us back to the beginning. You see there's team building and prep courses that our students will also be taking, and these courses are going to help them learn those 21st century skills of communication, collaboration, their study skills, all those different skills that they're going to need to be successful in each of these other classes. So they're going to be introduced there, but then they're going to be used in all of these classes. So all of these years, all of these courses kind of work together like a well-oiled machine to deliver high-quality instruction to our students that they're not going to forget after a test, but they're going to remember for a lifetime. Dr. Gardner, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. And so we have the 4 pathways, and I just wanted to briefly go over what students would or could earn from these pathways. You do have the most recent draft of the 4-year plan in your packet. You have those for each of the 4 pathways as far as the courses that the students will take. But these 2 pathways in particular, the focus really is to work them towards an associate's, with engineering being an associates of science, and then the advanced manufacturing and associates of applied science. And so that is the goal, to get them those 2 degrees, as well as the industry certifications. And you can see there that we have, OSHA, AutoCAD, SolidWorks, and the NCER. And we want to make sure that students have a variety of opportunities. So not just the degree, but also the certifications. The other 2 pathways, power and energy, this is really an and/or, right? Because these pathways don't necessarily lead to an associate's. We will hope that they can earn these credits to get that, but there are other opportunities. So not just the associates, but also the certificates. And so we want to really front load the certificates with these 2 pathways, because these typically aren't pathways that would lead a child directly into college. But we do know that they may make that choice, and so we want to get them as many college credits as possible. So you can see there with power and energy, the 3 certificates that we are trying to ensure kids have the opportunity to earn. And then with global logistics as well, the 3. And so the certifications, again, that list, depending upon our opportunities, can grow. I think the more that we really, pad the students with their experiences, the more marketable they will be when they graduate with us. And our master teachers, I've already introduced Dr. Wilson and Mr. Celestine. These are really the 2 descriptions of what it is that they do, if that makes sense. And really, to just summarize it, I think that if you saw them as like an academic coordinator, a mentor for teachers, an administrator, a counselor, whatever that is, they have the ability to wear that hat. So they have more than just a curriculum and instruction standpoint. They bring a wealth of knowledge with core from Dr. Wilson and CTE, as well as the dual credit piece with Mr. Celestine. And so we will prepare them for the placement exams, STAR, EOC, AP, as well as Applied Texas and TSI. We will ensure that cross-communication that Dr. Wilson talked about happens, collaborating with CNI as well as CTE, and then really assisting to ensure that our teachers understand how to be PBL teachers, because this is new for teachers as well, and to provide them with that ongoing support. And our enrollment update, this number, like literally, I could close my computer and then I open it back up and then it changes. So it's probably changed since I drove over here. And so currently we have offered admission to 178 students. And just so you'll know, that's every child who's applied. We've been blessed enough to be able to offer admission to every child who's applied. The breakdown of that is 155 of those students are Southwest students, and then 23 students from outside the district. And you can see where those students come from, and it's, to me, it's impressive to see that, we have students who are looking at us, from Northside, looking at us, from Medina Valley, and so they're willing to travel, and they understand that this is a gym, in Southwest. The way we approached the admission process is they applied, and then we sent them an acceptance letter, and they had to then accept their seat, because we wanted to make sure that this was still something that they wanted to do. And as of yesterday evening, 135 of those students have accepted their seats, which that's 120 from Southwest and then 15 outside the district. So our plan is to accept an additional 22 students to bring us to 200 for that wait list, because we know that things happen and kids may make a different choice, whatever that may be. And so we are right on track, and we're really excited, as I mentioned before, about our future students. Facilities update, really just sharing with you that we will have 8 teachers, and they will have a full course load, so they will each need a classroom. The way we use the classroom will be slightly different, as we talked about. They won't necessarily just stay in biology and learn about biology. They may need to go next door to talk to the math teacher to kind of move throughout those classrooms. So working with the staff at Legacy to ensure that we are mindful of the needs of Legacy as well as the needs of CAST, so that we can make the best decisions for Southwest students. And then the admin space, we're being very creative with that to ensure that the admin have the ability to interact with the students and be, more hands-on, because we will be mostly around the classrooms because of the way that PBL is delivered. Dr. Fay, did you want to speak to this, or would you like me to?
You can, other than, I can chime in at the very end.
Okay, okay. So as I mentioned earlier, A&M is one of our partners, and the way that I've worked with the College of Education at A&M is really to address the issue of preparing teachers to be STEM teachers, because teachers don't just go to school to be a STEM teacher, they go to school to be a science teacher. And what is it that we need to do to change that teacher's mindset to help them to understand what it means to teach young people how to be in a STEM career field? And so we're working with A&M San Antonio to grow that model. And so our plan is to bring in 4 student teachers, really folks who have just begun their education towards becoming a teacher in the fall, and they'll spend 4 semesters with us. And so obviously the goal is to keep them in our district, if we're going to help them to understand what it means to be a STEM teacher. And so those 4 students will come with us beginning in August, and they will receive 2 mentor teachers. One that's a core teacher, math, science, English, social studies, and one that's a career teacher. So they can understand how those 2 teachers work together, which is very unique. No other district would pull this off in this way. And then partnering with Palo Alto and Toyota, they, as you all know, give scholarships to students to study STEM and to be a STEM teacher, and they give them a great scholarship. I think it's like $50,000. So we talked about last week to tap into that pool, to bring them in. Their education's paid for, and now we can bring them in to really learn in the school, the community that they attended. And so we hope to be able to achieve those 4 individuals from our own community. And then they also, go ahead, Dr. Fay.
Just unique to the partnership is originally when Texas A&M came on board, the thinking was around the student component. And as they grow into being a full-fledged Tier 1 university at some point, we may not quite be at the place where we need them to help support our engineering students to that degree, but they have moved fairly rapidly on their teacher development program. And so they are part of our higher ed partner for CAST, in the sense that they are specifically going to help us design the type of teacher that we would like to see in our CAST classrooms, if that makes sense. And as their program grows more robust in the engineering pathways, then our hope is at some point they can be our backyard partner for kids to earn dual credit in those areas. And so, but that kind of is the current pull. I was able to have lunch with the Palo Alto recipients of the scholarship in this area last week or the week prior. One of those students is a Southwest ISD student, and to speak to the rigor and what they're learning and everything was really incredible, in that we're going to be getting some really high quality teachers out of that scholarship pool, and Toyota's very vested in supporting that work. And so that would become, because we have such a great 2+2 program with Palo Alto, is that our kids that are not only in CAST, but our kids that are in our TAFE program, which are Future Educators of America, those students would be piping in through this type of program into that. So the hope is that we start, Southwest ISD has a strong legacy value with our returning graduates, and we're hoping to build an even strong legacy value with this program.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
Probably, by the way, wonderful presentation. It was great. And you probably said this, but I think I missed it. When they go through the 2x2 program and they are at the end, what kinds of jobs are they going to be able to take? And is there an effort as part of this to help these guys get placements with some of these companies?
Sure. So depending on the pathway, the jobs could be very different. I think if we were to take Toyota, for instance, when our students graduate, if Toyota is where they'd like to be, they would have already completed their AMT certification, so they would be able to go on and work with Toyota. So it's a 2-year program that we're breaking down over 4 years, so they will be complete with that. Every partner, industry partner, has agreed to offer a mentor as
Good.
well as an interview. So though I can't tell you exactly where they will be, I'll tell you we have 4 years to get them prepared to take on this job and be successful in it.
And if I could add to that, one of the things we learned in the development of the Toyota grant to the foundation was that our community partners that support high-skilled labor forces are struggling to find people to fill those jobs. So part of the conversation, if you notice that we have one engineering pathway and then you have 3 pathways that are almost completely dedicated to the career pipeline. But those kids, even though they're in that pipeline, they would still have the opportunity later, if they so choose, to go earn an engineering degree. But when we were developing the Toyota grant, one of the things that was very clear of the people who are helping support that initiative was that they may need 1 engineer, but they're gonna need 37 highly skilled labor
Yes.
people to fix the robots that are being designed by the engineers, because that's where they struggle in the job market in the San Antonio area. So when Amazon came into our community as a business partner, you know, Toyota could stand to lose as many as 13 of their highly paid AMT workers. And so this design in CAST has 3 pathways that directly support that initiative, so that our community partners are not suffering and trying to find, going outside the state of Texas to find their highly skilled labor force. Make sense?
Yeah, it does, and I just, in other programs I've been involved with, similar to this, the problem is getting them that job. And part of that problem is that we can't always predict what the market is gonna be like when they graduate. So they all graduate when it's in a down part of the market, and they're so discouraged. And I know it's a hard thing, but I think it's a long-term process to try to get them a job with maybe working in summers or something, so that there's some tie that employer needs to be thought of all the way through the process.
You're right. I think what makes this process unique is that we aren't at the table with industry sometimes. We meet monthly. And so as things change, so do the certifications and certificates that they're looking for, and they communicate that with us. And I think that's what's going to be awesome, because our kids will have what it is that they're looking for, instead of us building a plan and in 4 years that plan may not have been, you know, correct. And so that plan that you have in front of you will be just as fluid today as it will be, you know, in 4 years, because it's our goal not to just graduate them, but to graduate them with something of substance.
Yeah.
I have a question too.
Aspects of the program too, Dr. Farmer, is that the industry mentoring component, job shadowing opportunities, internship, paid and not
Yeah.
opportunities for students. So that connection is going to take place all the way through
Right.
the process. And so it's a great point. And if we can connect our students earlier through their school experience, then
Yeah.
they have a better idea of who and what they want to become and how to make that process a reality. And to Joanne's point, we've been to a number of meetings with Toyota Manufacturing in our own backyard. And one of the positions that they continually fail to fill at 100% rate is a multi-skilled worker. Those folks who are on the field actually working on these, 10-foot robots and 6-foot robots and keeping the process going. And I think the partnership, right, we get that. Like Joanne says, every time we go to a meeting, we have to hear how they have to go out of state. We don't want them to go out of state. We want them to live right here in our own backyard. We can do this right. I think we're going to fill that one, and we're going to fill positions that we can't even as jobs that are going to be created for the future that are coming on. So it's about creating problem solvers. It's about creating new folks that have an opportunity to see. When you look at a hospital, you think automatically of a doctor and a nurse. There's 320 other positions in the hospital that we're going to expose them to all those other jobs.
I have a quick question on the dual credit. Are the students going to be earning most of those credits in core classes or in the more specialized field that they're studying?
So
or a
it depends on the
combination?
pathway, 'cause I would say the easier answer would be a combination. What engineering, for instance, they're all gonna be core. The certifications is where we wanna be able to pad them. But
Okay.
the other three pathways, they will receive core as well as the workforce, dual credit pieces, so they'll receive both. And really
What
like-
percentage would you say is core and,
For the workforce, I would say, we've designed their English, math, science, and social studies in the junior and senior year to be core. Not because it's required from Palo Alto, but because we want to make sure kids have options.
right, that's what I was thinking,
Yes.
that if they choose or decide that this isn't for them, they
Yes.
want to take a different path, the dual credit courses they've earned
Right.
are transferable to
Yes.
anything.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The core dual credit transfers.
The core.
Right.
The specific, like AMT industry type dual credit.
Right.
That would not necessarily transfer.
Yeah.
Currently, the only other ACCD partner that offers the AMT is actually St. Philip's. So Palo Alto and Southwest ISD are like truly the next step in that program. And so it's a very unique partnership, and it's very coveted, the AMT program.
And the student teachers that we're gonna get from Texas A&M, is it an internship, or what did you call it, what they're gonna come do at?
So their last 2 years, they have to complete coursework, but they also have to do like an on-site.
Yes, yeah, the student teaching, so
we're
that's what it's
keeping
gonna
them that fourth semester, when normally you don't get them for 4 semesters.
Okay.
So they're looking for a job, and we have this semester of disconnect, and so we're keeping them for that 4th semester. which
It's
is-
unpaid,
It actually will be paid.
it will be
Yes,
paid?
yes, so-
Because currently Texas A&M does not pay,
No.
and that's a real problem for these students.
Right.
Okay,
So it will be paid. and
it's a
so
full-time,
It will
or,
be, but we're gonna, the stipend they're working out, and so we're trying to make sure that it's around 20 to 25,000. So when they finish, they've been paid, that 4th semester, but they also now can start a job. because
and
it's-
and this probably would be more of a question for Brandon, is the district paying them? Is that coming from?
That's an board action item here, you. Partners?
Industry
Yeah,
partners?
our
Okay.
partners have been very instrumental in understanding that this is a point that they want to make sure that doesn't, have to come out of the district pocket, but that we can receive the benefits from.
Okay.
How did you get the word out to, I may have missed it, but to the other, like, Northside students, the Edgewood, how did they hear about it?
That's a great question. I'll tell you that the way we started was the focus groups in July. The pre-engineering program allowed us to kind of tap into their pool, and so we've just really stretched our limits with that. I think the social media push has been helpful. Dr. Verso sent out a flyer to, I think there was, 7 or 8 superintendents to invite them. Yes, to invite them. We also had the director of counseling. He went to the meeting that they go to for all the directors from all districts. He presented there. So we've been very creative. I will tell you that we're not done yet. We want to make sure that the word continues, but we realize that the word will actually be spoken far louder with our students when they see students in action. That will sell the program far more.
And what is our plan for next year? Not the first 9th grade class, but once the word gets out, and I can't imagine that we're not going to have a lot of our parents
Sure.
pushing our kids to go there. Do we have plans for it to grow in 19, 20, or whatever?
It's a good problem to have. I think that the goal is to serve the kids who have this interest. And so obviously, we're vested in our district first to make sure that all students in Southwest receive this opportunity, but also a unique experience to bring in other students. And so if we get to the point where we need to offer a lottery, we will do so, especially for those students who are coming from outside the district.
But do we have a plan of growing it? Like, we're doing, you said 150?
150.
So then,
150
every,
Yes, every year we'll bring in another
And
class.
something that wasn't brought up is that Palo Alto actually, or ACCD, went to a bond, because in the junior and senior year of this program, our students will actually be on the Palo Alto campus full-time. And so they have a bond project that we've been involved in going and visiting other community colleges to design it. And so our kids will be split between 2 places to some degree, very much like what we did with Early College High School a few years back, and that the kids are actually going to university. The difference in this one is that they're going there for their core content as well. And so we'll have, a very unique design, I think, but certainly something that we can be proud of.
So what's the max number of bodies that this school can have is 600? Okay.
Right now, that's our plan.
Yeah, that's the future.
That concentration and really to kind of cultivate all the leadership in San Antonio to say, you know, Toyota Manufacturing can't give every school district a $500,000 robot, but they give one. So why we open up access for other students beyond Southwest is so that they can also benefit in that kind of concentrated effort to put our students inside working on a 6-foot robot, understanding all the functionality of this robot and problem solve. So we're kind of a laboratory.
Right.
And there will be other CAS in the future. There's a whole kind of CAS governance we're talking about in other conversations about how to kind of create opportunities for students throughout the traditional ISDs in Bexar County to have choice between us and among us, so that our students are, those who want to be at that different level of engagement can participate in the program. But then any students in our school can get out and become an engineer or a doctor. You know, it's about choices and about just creating limited interest, I think, for our kids.
Is there any quotas? Did we establish quotas on the number of Southwest students versus the number of outside the district students?
Initially, we're going 50%, 50%, half and half.
Do we ever envision a time where we may have so much interest in the Southwest community that we would have to turn away Southwest students?
I think it's a conversation we can have based on, you know, what happens in the future and that interest.
Well,
I think
is the 50-50 thing already written in stone, or did we say yes? Because I remember the last time we asked about this, everything was on the drawing board and we really didn't have any specifics. So we're starting to get specifics now. Is there opportunity to have conversation about how that's going to get worked out? Because my concern is that I would want to make sure that we service the Southwest students first. And anyone that's interested within Southwest has access. And then beyond that, of course, we would go to other districts. But if we're tied into this 50-50 model, then that by design excludes Southwest students.
And I think that's the uniqueness about CAP, is that we were working with an advisory group of industry partners, SA Works, and those folks who are part of this. And part of that may be accessibility for all students in San Antonio, but those who are hosting this program, you know, you get to go to a certain level and fill your spots first, but then we have to open it up.
Right.
You know, with funding, great aspects of this opportunity, because I think the industry at large sees the need to create these engaged
Right.
types of programs. So there, you know, I wouldn't say there's nothing written in stone right now, but the fact is that we would be a collaborative partner
Sure.
with other folks, and that may be kind of, if the majority of that group says this is really, we gotta open up X number of spots for people outside, we may not be able to keep it completely for Southwest, but Southwest will always be the major benefactor.
I guess I would like to have conversation about the possibility of a model where all Southwest students get accepted first, and then we just are able to fluidly adapt to however many number of kids are applying from the outside. And that when we make decisions, those are the numbers that are gonna get adjusted, not the numbers of Southwest students, right? And I don't know if that's possible, but
That's a valid point, and we've had this conversation in curriculum instruction because we have people that actually have been in other systems that have run programs like this. And one of the conversations of a district north of us is that it's, you know, community, we serve our community first, and then if we have open seats, that we bring those to the table. It's a little bit different because we do have an advisory at the first couple of years, as they are providing some level of financial support. And I think that, you know, when Asia said that this is a fluid design, I think that we work through it year by year on how we see this fitting into our community.
well, and I can see, and in the beginning, I don't think that'll be a big issue because we're trying to grow from 150 to 600. So I think there's a lot of flexibility up front. And if they're only giving us money up front, or if there's a deadline to that extra money from our business partners, then we'd want that flexibility, you know, in the later years. If we're capping at 600 and we've got 400 Southwest students, because the program's amazing, then I would hate to turn away 100 of them You know, so those are conversations I feel that we need to have. And then another thing that I really, really think is important is I would like to know how many students is the break even cost for this school. Like, how many students do we need to cover fixed costs? Where is the money coming from? How much money is coming from our industry partners for how long, and how much do we have to put up, starting when? Because we have a lot of, different competing interests for funding from our entire school, from our entire district. And I would like to know, like, the cost per student for this program versus, our other 2 high schools. I would like the 3 high schools to really be, that we serve them our equity. It's our equity thing that we always talk about, right? I know this school is going to be amazing, and it's going to be a huge opportunity, and we've got all these industry partners, and that's a first for us. And I feel like, okay, this is the future, right? We've got to adapt. We've got to move forward. We have to innovate. I just don't want to leave anybody behind.
They are conversations that we've had along your kind of journey that we've been taking along there. I keep points to present that. The whole finance picture that you're asking me inquiring about, I'm going to say is going to be a brown bag in itself.
Okay.
Because that is information that we need to give to our trustees as we start making decisions as we get closer to launch.
Correct.
And it's going to change. Launching number 2 is going to look a little different than number 1, because it's going to have
Right.
learned opportunities as we begin that. But we do have some information for our board. I think we're at a level that Randy can put that together in a presentation. We're trying to understand what those kind of external funding sources are going to be. Matter of fact, I think our item number 2 is one of those opportunities as well. But we plan to stick with CAS now, open it up.
Yeah.
Kind of paint this as kind of the high elevation, what it looks like. There's some good numbers that we know that we get with. Really impressed going on the 31st to a CAS information night for the parents, to go into Legacy Auditorium and see the whole bottom half full of students and parents there for just this reason. And then talking to a few on the way out, they're very impressed with the information, very excited. But let us bring the finance part back.
Right.
That's some good questions that we won't be able to answer to totality, but we can at least kind of say what we know at this point.
Are we gonna have a final MOU for this? Because I think we did one, but it was real, like, it was just very big picture. There was no specifics.
Yeah, it's a very.
There was no conversations. I want to make sure that that we get the information, but it's accomplished. It's like, okay, we're just giving you this. There's no opportunity for us to question or give feedback or ask for alternatives. You understand?
I completely understand.
Okay.
There's nothing accomplished right now. I can tell you, everything's in draft, everything's in plans.
Yes.
Our first thing is, do we have that level of interest? What we're seeing right now, it was difficult to get the word out.
Yeah.
Because it's just difficult.
It just always is the first step.
We have our ISDs and we have our communities we support, and we want to offer what we think we can offer for our kids. And we've had a really hard time for our kids with somewhere else and think, why didn't we offer that in our backyard? We should work. So I think that's a pretty philosophy throughout the city and throughout the state as well. But I think right now it's about, we need to bring our board along. I don't think we felt really comfortable that we had the information, because we're learning too that this is not a Southwest thing. Although we're the host, we get to make certain kind of decisions or really kind of push
Right.
some issues to make sure our kids are supported and that we're first in line when it comes to Southwest things and issues. But yeah, I hear you. We want to just plant the seed today, but CAS in some aspects should be part of our brown bag there as we get into this summer, getting up in August.
I have a question. Is this house the same type of school that was open in a different district?
So,
And were they the same partners?
sure, that's a good question. So the CAS Network opened their first school in SAISD, CAS Tech, which is at the traditional Fox Tech campus. And so theirs is a entrepreneurship and computer science and gaming high school. Same model in that they open just with the ninth graders. They are PBL. So the similarities are really strong. Our partners are different. So we have industry partners that are more aligned with engineering and manufacturing. They have Tech Block and Geekdom and Rackspace, so they have different partners, but the commitments are the same as far as the mentors and all of that.
I have one question. As far as what are we thinking transportation-wise? The kids that are in the legacy boundary, of course, would go on the bus. How about
So-
the kids that are in the Southwest High School?
We are considering this conversation for all of our middle schools to have access to the paths that they want, whether it's a CAST or a legacy pathway that's not currently at Southwest High School or vice versa, right? So we're looking at the opportunity to provide transportation from potentially a middle school so that we can transport, but it's not like we're transporting to the high school, then we're wasting time transporting back and forth. So we're potentially looking at running transportation so that if a kid really wanted to have access to the Cosmo program at Southwest High School and they live in McAuliffe's attendance zone, that we provide that opportunity to kids. But it would be a one-time shuttle as opposed to this back and forth thing, which is a huge burden on the transportation
Logistics.
department.
And so then that would mean that some high school kids would be riding the bus with the junior high kids?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, no.
We haven't, we did have that
We're
conversation.
we're
last-
talking about it,
Yes,
though.
we are
Okay.
definitely talking about it, because I think that is a question that I think if we had answered, it would really help drive the marketing and the communication with our families.
Yes.
And so, we're definitely in those conversations right now, if we can do that without placing a burden on our transportation department, to get our kids to school on time.
Right.
And to their homes in a
And
timely
you're
manner at
shuttling
the end
just
of the
from
day.
the
Just from one
Scobie,
location,
McCullough,
yes.
and,
So
well, not
we think
Resnick.
it's doable. I think we have enough brain power in the system to make sure we iron out how
Right.
that would actually look so that we're not impacting any one program in particular, whether it's business and finance versus curriculum
Right.
instruction.
Have you had those questions from parents about
Yes.
transportation?
Yes,
We have.
We've also had at least 3 meetings with PIA
Yes.
about how we provide or work together as a municipality and a ISD, because there will be other CAS in the future. How do we create the existing infrastructure so that we remove transportation as an issue, not a
Right.
program?
That's
And so they really have a few kind of innovative ideas. I don't think we're at a point to present right now, but I know we're reconnecting with PIA in the next 2 to 3 weeks to have another conversation. But I like what they have to offer, because they already have this infrastructure citywide to kind of get students to a certain location, and we would be responsible for that location back and forth. And so we are exploring how to remove transportation as a barrier to being in this program from the other side of Southwest Jackson, but also from the city at large.
Okay.
I have really good questions, so that's why you're board of the year.
The only other thing I just wanted to leave you with is that we'll be getting invitations out to you all, but we're bringing all of our kiddos in on April 4th for a signing day. Kind of like a D1 signing day for sports, but we are the sport, CAS STEM, and so we will invite you all so that you can come see our families and our kiddos. Just wanted to kind of plant that seed. And I thank you all for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Excellent.
Very good presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is CAS STEM and district charter.
Yes, sir, and this is an area that we want to go to tell you, in honor of your time, we have other big agenda items, and this is a very specific case that's sitting to the agenda items, and we can't get to the conversation. That last one, we actually predicted was gonna be 20 minutes, and it's been twice that. So what you have in front of you are basically articles of agreement of an opportunity to present to our board moving forward in the area of CAS, and that's in the area of reviewing, researching a in-district charter, which basically we would agree to charter with another group of folks to kind of run this program. The benefit of doing that really kind of evolves from a new Senate bill that was passed and the most recent legislation by Senator Menendez, who actually was the author of the bill, that basically would allow the benefit of us collecting more dollars per student. So we anticipate, we don't have the final rules right now, but we anticipate that it can basically create a fusion of money up to 800 to about 1,200, 1,300 per student ADA. So as you grow 150 to 300 to 450 and 600, innovative, it's different. I know there are a few districts looking at this newest opportunity that the new statute has provided us. I don't want to get into the weeds right now, other than I provided that you placed the 18 articles to kind of read through, so we can put this on a future planning period.
Okay.
And I believe that you also have the PA letter. There are some kind of critical time dates on here. On February 9th, that is going to be when they put on their timeline, a draft timeline of how you would apply for this. Here's going to be your timeline that's included. The letter says PA, and I want to do this.
We didn't have the letter.
By February 15th, we would have to submit a letter of intent. It's a non-binding letter of intent that says, hey, we're interested in potentially being an applicant for SB 1882. And then by April 30th, we would have to basically provide an executed contract that says, we've made the decision, we want to do this, and here is our executed contract. So we're talking about how do we do this as working together with other ISDs that are around us. There are 7 ISDs who basically have this partnership that says, CAS is a great opportunity to kind of do some shared resources to kind of bring doors that open up for students who may have just a great interest that they definitely want to be, infused in that program during the 4 years of high school experience. But it's definitely different. We're basically saying we want to contract this program out to this group. And that group would consist of industry and it would consist of educational leaders and higher education folks, basically a different board. So I don't want to get into weeds other than what I would like to ask the board, and for the sake of time waste, I know the next agenda item is huge, and I know that Dr. Cody is going into it. I think right now it's about reading. You have the information. I will make sure you have a copy of the TEA letter before you leave today, and this will be kind of our agenda item when we come back in Brown Bag. And we're going to have to meet Brown Bag in March, April, May. I think that's just going to go through. I know we've had that conversation. We have a lot of information to get to our board so we can make some collective decisions about the best interest of our system, especially in our community.
Dr. Verstov, is Great School Nonprofit, is that essentially a charter? Is that like a charter, or what is that? I don't understand what it,
Well, if it's not charter, it's an in-district charter, basically.
it's in-district charter.
There's a difference, but by creating an in-district charter, we are able to tap into other additional funds that we would not normally be able to tap into. A way to generate revenue, right? I really don't have the specifics to give you right now, but this whole 1882 is about this board contracting with the board to kind of oversee the program. If you do that, here's the benefits that you get from that.
So given that we don't have another brown bag before these deadlines, when,
We are having
It's a
one.
non-binding letter of intent.
So look,
The actual deadline would be April 30th.
right now,
No,
you're just
but-
looking for the okay to
but-
do that non-binding letter of intent. Unless we need a motion on that. Is that correct? We need action? Is that not an action item?
Motion on that, because then
No?
Mike just did it. It basically said we have an
Okay.
interest.
the contract is due February 23rd. They have to say yes.
Well, you got interest,
So
right?
then we have consensus. Would that be?
My question is that how are we gonna get the information clarifying what this is before February 23rd if we don't have another meeting before?
February 23rd, we find us.
No,
Okay,
not till April, we have to be binding.
By April
Okay.
30th.
I understand. Okay.
So
I-
we actually take right now a non-binding.
Okay.
We will basically send in a letter of intent saying we're interested in
Correct.
exploring this with our school board. But April 30th is really right now, in this TA letter, April 30th, we're here.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought February 23rd was the date. That's why I was concerned. Okay,
By April 30th, they would have to receive the executed contract that we have.
that is approved.
Partnership.
Okay, so we have several months to have conversation. Okay, okay.
And then we're
So
having
right
a
now,
brown
I
bag
just would like
every
to
month.
give you the
Yes.
information to read, and come back and then definitely, lead off.
Brown bag, okay. Understood.
Keep an open mind.
Does this have anything to do with us allowing students
Well, it basically would say that we're the contract with you and you love the task. Yes. And now I have a better idea of what members of that in-district charter
said that would be a different board that governed that. Did you just say that?
That specific program, yes.
Step.
An elected school board?
They would operate in place of the school board becoming contracted.
Oh, so they're not elected officials? Okay.
Their only existence is through the contractual agreement that this board created.
And then we have no say after that?
For CASTEM?
I believe once we would, that's the details on the green, because I would like to bring an attorney to the next
Okay,
meeting, so you
all right.
have all those legal questions answered.
Okay.
And the reason I want to give you the information to read is because I know you guys ask really good questions, so it gives you an opportunity to say, okay, this is what they're
Okay.
going to be going down and looking at. And so I'm going to invite David Thompson, who's really kind of involved in this bill, and the rulemaking of the bill. Right now, it's still in rulemaking. We don't have a finalized version yet.
Okay.
And after public comments last month, so it's on the fast track. If we wanted to apply today, we couldn't, because we're not ready for it, the application process. So as we learn more, we're trying to get that information out and kind of be in a position that if we say, you know, let's do this, we're ready to do it. If we say don't do it, then we'll figure out a different way. We would just say we're going to do our program without these funds that we know we could generate. It's really kind of a fund generator.
So we give up control and they gave us money.
They give us money for that program.
You mean that, you were talking the 800 to 1,500, oh, I don't know that.
So when it's coming, so that we can ask questions or explain the next round,
I don't think that's what.
The first Tuesday.
Of March.
March.
All right, y'all ready to move on?
Yes.
All right, the next thing is secondary high school.
So I'm going to ask Jennifer Ellison to actually come up. She is the Executive Director for Secondary Education. And a couple of weeks, first of all, there's two things that we really want to include in this presentation. One is to look to our current CTE program and look to kind of the Eliza's work in trying to clean up pathways. She's worked with Jennifer in the past 2 or 3 months in making sure that we don't have these kind of scattered CTE program elements, and that we're becoming much more focused so that we can provide kids a much more robust opportunity within each pathway. And then a couple of weeks ago, actually a couple months ago, we had our 2 high school principals who came and said, I think if we were to allow us to move to a system that's a block system, that we might be able to better close the gap academically for our students. And so this has kind of been a grassroots movement from our campus leadership. I want to thank Ms. Bunsen, Ms. Wagner, also Anita Chavetta, Monica Garcia, and Tanya from Legacy. They're not here with us, but they have all been part of this planning. And with the kind of keen eye of having Jennifer on board, we've been really able to kind of develop a protocol for moving forward and looking to, can we afford this model? And so I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Jennifer and thank Eliza Battles, who's been really instrumental in this, Richard Flores, part of the Fine Arts program, and also Luis Gonzalez has been very much part of looking at the movement of CTE pathways, how it impacts programming, and moving to a system that allows us to really focus and hone in on academic performance of our high schools. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so I like to keep it simple at first because what's about to come at you is a whole bunch of stuff. And so really, why are we even discussing this? It's
We
student
like it
achievement.
simple.
So, I just wanted to ask a question. I know we have discussed the web beyond. Would you guys be willing to go beyond that time? Because I think that's going to kind of, you help craft it down in 45 minutes. So I just want to value your time. If you want to stop at 1, there's a way we can do that. We'll just present partial today and bring it back the next time. But if you can go to 1:15, 1:20, then I think something get through more. So.
Well, I can stay.
I can stay as well.
I guess my girlfriend will have to wait.
Please, please do.
So can we say by 1:20?
Thank you. Very much appreciated.
I talk fast
And it's
anyway.
going to be very simple, right?
You can
Very,
do it.
very.
The first one.
Stretch out. We're discussing this because of student achievement. And there's been a movement even since last year. It started with the literacy movement and looking at really auditing all of our programs and evaluating where we are and identifying where we want to be, okay? And so there's really, it's all about a mind shift change of going to more an academic-focused environment. How and why? So did a protocol. We audited, so I'm going to put Eliza on the spot. We did CTE first because there was a lot of just things that weren't clearly articulated or in true pathways. So we audited the current system. We identified our strengths and weaknesses. We drilled down to specific pathways and then started running them through lots of different lenses. And what I mean by that, engagement in that class, rigor of the class and the pathway, college and career aptitude, when I'm done with this, what does it equal when I'm out of here? Outcomes, competitions, awards, even post-secondary implications. And then taking that and start to restructure it so that we leverage the strengths of what is currently in Southwest. So now what?
Can I stop you right
Oh, yeah.
there? Just because I really want to say, we have had, 5 CTE directors every year since. And this is the first time that we've had a CTE director that's invested this much time in really trying to audit the work to see kind of where we are so that we can make real change for our kids. And so I want to acknowledge Eliza for being committed to doing that.
I'm going to see if I can't make this just a little larger for you. So the outcomes were basically to utilize our funding and our facilities, our staff, all of those things that were kind of put on that slide before, to have bigger gains. Discussions after we decided to audit the pathways, there were clear that there were several opportunities for us to use our current resources better. Again, like she mentioned, there were several people in on these conversations because, as all of you know, there are lots of spinning parts. You don't just, anytime we talk about this, you move one thing, somebody else gets jostled around a little bit too. Kind of the things that we went through in our own internal protocols to get this done were current and past enrollment trends, staffing data, current pathway alignment, the lack thereof in some cases, current electives as well as forecasted electives. CAST-STEM was part of this. Perkins Grant, also pathways leading to degrees versus skilled labor. Opportunities to increase our certifications and our accomplishments, and opportunities to build stronger practicums and internships. So that's what we kind of mean going back to that student achievement portion. I hate to bore you with some more protocol because after we did that and you audited even more, then we actually drilled down to some individual student schedules because making global statements which really wasn't effective for us. So this is changing some of the pathways between the two high schools in order to maximize that. The health science and the law enforcement would return to Southwest solely, and that's to honor that community and commitment with the bond. Informational technology will take on a specialization at Southwest High School in the cybersecurity, which they already have. It's just making it more robust.
Okay.
And then flipping to the educational training, that pathway solely at Legacy. Part of that was to start utilizing what CAST is already bringing in with A&M by having that pathway over there. Our students in high school now will have access to that A&M program without going to A&M yet. Business and finance, that was a crazy, like 3 or 4 pathways when we first got started. And when we ended, it ended up into 2 very specific and one that has the potential to add dual and continuing ed in all 4 years of that pathway for those portions of CTE. So that actually increases the amount of post-secondary that they can have access to. Information technology, that is, the strands that they would have would be animation, graphic design, media tech. They don't have that much right now. They are just kind of under the media tech. So that allows the students that are not necessarily in CAST access to more technology programming.
If I can go back to the health science law piece, is that when we opened Legacy this past year, there was a consideration that if we had student interest that we would go ahead and have a singleton type situation in health and law. But in our original design of Legacy High School, when we knew we were moving to split our high schools, we were moving away from having comprehensive programs at both sites because of costs. And health law really was a program that was supposed to be solely part of the robust program at Southwest High School. And when we added it to Legacy, what we created was a situation where beyond an entry-level course, kids have nowhere else to go because it's an entry-level course, right? So in moving those 2 pathways back, we're able to create a really robust programming around it. And that's gonna have some, because of what we did this first year, that's gonna have some implications on the student side. But, you know, Jennifer just said that they drilled all the way down into the student pieces. And there's gonna have to be some hard decisions that are made by families. And we are willing to have individual conversations around that. But if we really want to grow a robust program in health and law, we cannot continue to have singleton kind of going nowhere pathways at Legacy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So considerations and some of the immediate wins for this: better counseling experience with regard to forecasting courses and alignment, depth, rigor, even post-secondary. Immediate opportunity for more dual credit continuing ed. Facilities are going to finally be used to their full potential. A potential gain of over $500,000 in new funding because those pathways are now aligned, which changes the coding, which changes your double down on Perkins. Reduce FTE waste, filling seats. We had lots of areas where there were empty holes, and you're still paying that FTE regardless if the seat is full or not. Creation of processes and procedures that are actually more thoughtful in terms of individual guidance counseling, instead of herding through what do you want to be when you leave here and how can I counsel you in a path that meets your individual needs as a student. And then innovative courses, having an actual process for people to come and run through so that all entities can have a look on that and we continue to make our program stronger. And then finally, release of a communication plan. Because all of this right now is held at this level, and that communication to move beyond us and go forth into the community and start counseling and educating. Questions about that part?
So so we're going narrower and deeper.
Exactly. Exactly.
We were very spread out and not very deep.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Because once you start duplicating, you watered it down.
Right.
And so I might have had a great program and pathway, but when it got split, I have half of what I had before.
Right. Okay.
Well, you can't afford to do it just like that.
Right.
Correct. But we've already got a set of kids over there that we told them this was the case, and now we're going to change it. How are we going to?
After this presentation, we will be meeting with Janice and Jesse over developing a communication plan around it, because we know that we're going to impact kids, right?
Right.
But I feel very confident that once we have individual conversations, right, that's a responsibility that we owe our community. That, you know, yes, some kids are gonna have to make a choice,
Make
okay?
decisions.
But the choice is that if they're in a program, let's say they're on the football team, and they want to be a health person, that they have to make the choice, right?
Correct.
Same thing with fine arts and things like that. And so we know that we're impacting to some degree, but at this point, there's nowhere else for those kids to go, because next year we're gonna add a whole nother group of kids that are called freshmen and
Right.
seniors to a pathway where I don't have any room to grow them, because the teacher capacity is at full capacity. So.
Do you
we're-
have any idea how many kids just from this 1 year? I mean,
Yeah, we do.
dozens, hundreds?
So when you do the flip-flop, if you do this just like it is, and
Right.
the true flip-flop back and forth, it's about 80 students difference.
Okay.
So it's a pretty good comparable back and forth, and that's kind of why some of those pathways ended up somewhere, to make sure that balance kind of stayed. Then that's why Richard was so, helpful. We wanted to know the impact on other things.
Sure.
And so by drilling down, we went straight legacy students, drilled down to see how many that were fine arts and CTE, and then even from them, yes, there's going to be an impact, but honestly, when we got down to the individual student transcript level, it was minimal.
Okay.
And so, and some of it is just good conversation with the student, because I don't know what I did.
Let me just base why we're here. So in staffing last year, one of the requests that's coming from the school was, we want our students who may have interest in health. And so the request from the school was, we at least want principals in our decorating to the health sciences, so that our students have that possibility. But then if they want, they can transfer the next year towards the Southwest. And so I bought into it. I can tell you,
Yeah.
it was the recommendation from CNI. I wanted to support the principal in providing those things. I think it created what we call a unintended consequence. Now the students love not as easy to make a choice, so what we're gonna do is back up and say.
Sure.
You're gonna have to make that choice after a year. And the program.
Absolutely.
I think they'll have to still make a choice, but they won't have to make two of them now. The first year. So it was all done with greatest consequence, and again, I pushed it, I know that, because I wanted to support what the school was asking
Right.
for, and I kind of saw that. But after experiencing it for a year, it's the kids have to have this age now, and I love where I'm at, they still want to go to the program, we're just backing it up a year.
Okay.
So another side effect as we kept going through this audit of our programs, we started branching back into the core, and there are pockets to where we can get better, okay? And this is where that grass movement is so appreciated, and for me, I just feel blessed to be with them, because not one time did anyone say things can't be done. Their mindset is, these are the things that we want. If we had a magic wand, then let's figure it out. We're not leaving a room until we figure this out, right? And so those lovely ladies took a tour. They took several. So both high schools were represented. We had a middle school representative, everybody from HR, lots of different entities that went to Eagle Pass. They started pulling some data, because that goes back to who do we want to be? All right, we know where we're at. Where are we going with this, and who do we want to be? And when we start looking at other systems that serve similar populations and are high achieving. So Eagle Pass, you can see these are head-to-head, apples-to-apples numbers. They are far out exceeding us in all of our core content. They earned 6 distinctions last year, and we're upset because they didn't get the 7th one like they did the year before. So that's what we want to set our sight on, right? We want to be very intentional, because whatever we do, at the end outcome is what we can provide for our children. 16 data.
This is 17. The other part of that is that Eagle Pass for 2-3 years consecutive have been labeled in the U.S. News World Report as one of the top 100 high schools in America. And part of that is because of their academic focus. So their STAR scores are impressive comparatively, but when you look at SAT, AP, PSAT, the academic rigor of that campus, and typically border schools and valley schools far exceed what's happening in the San Antonio area.
And it's interesting, too, to kind of tie in some of our Holdsworth work. When we look at other high-performing systems around the state as a whole, there are some very common trends and themes when you get to their expectations in the academic environment. And so from that, the first task was, can we even run this from bell to bell? And so Ms. Bunson, Ms. Chivetta really started taking those numbers, and Bunson was the one that took the lead on that of, can I make it run from the exact morning time that I have right now to the exact release time. Even you'll notice there's timing in there if they are going to 3 lunches. So, okay, check, timing works. What's next? This is, poor Brandon, you sat right here again. So we got a challenge, all right? So the challenge was, can you convert the current dynamics in our current master schedule into this proposed accelerated block menagerie thing that Eagle Pass does? And that's where they took the bull by the horns. Both deans, both principals, like, okay, watch this. And so English 1, 2, 3, and 4 on there, those are your current teachers that are at Southwest High School, the current numbers that are at Southwest High School, and then they put it in based on the mock of this is what next year's schedule could potentially look like. Guess what? It fit. So everybody started doing the happy dance. And I'm like, time out. Okay, don't get too excited yet. Let's look, what if the coaches are factored in? And we made it fit, right? And so we kind of paused there, because the consideration next was, before we go to make any decisions, we wanted to bring it to senior staff today to look at and contemplate and give us some feedback, and they did. And I'm excited because our next step is to actually do this mock schedule. I know Amanda may not want me to say I'm excited, but to do the mock schedule for the entire rest of Southwest so that we can see how CTE will run, because not just CTE, fine arts, all the other programs. So the basic design behind Eagle Pass is to increase time and content. So those are 75-minute courses. If it's an EOC tested area, the children are in there all year. So right now, where a freshman student is getting 45 minutes a day of English, they will be getting 75 minutes a day for the full year. After EOC testing, it becomes an accelerated block. And that means the coursework moves at an accelerated pace, but you end in a semester. So some of the benefits of all of this, and this is where Team Legacy also
Just
sorry.
want to back that up for clarification. EOC courses and APDC courses.
Oh, sorry,
Would
yes.
be the only courses that ran as a full year course, meaning that we're going to meet every day. There's going to be lots of rigor because we're talking about moving the needle academically. In the other courses, which would be CTE, your non-EOC tested, your non-AP, fine art, athletics, those would run on semester blocks. So maybe when I get to English 3, that's not a tested area. So maybe I would take English 3 and Algebra 2, because that's not a tested area, but I would take those in the same period of the day. It would change at the semester. Right, makes sense? And so in doing that over the course of 4 years, kids actually get more opportunities to take more elective courses and a better chance to fit into a true practicum model by the time they're a junior and a senior. So currently, if a kid wants to take a practicum level course, it has to fit within their schedule. This is almost designing opportunities so kids can have opportunities to be in practicum. So we're talking about those kids that maybe they're not on a advanced academic track to go to UT or Texas A&M, but maybe they want to be part of Holt Caterpillar's team. Is that now I don't have to identify kids that their schedule fits it, but more about the kid identifying that, hey, if I get all this worked out, then I can actually put myself in a really good position to be competitive for those internships.
And I'm sorry, I apologize. I glazed over that part, and the AP, the dual credit, that allows more time in that content which they don't have right now also. So really, as we start looking through all the different lenses, like she said, if I'm a student that doesn't want to go to a tier 1 campus, I want to do more college or career path items, it gives them more flexibility in their schedule. It also gives them ability to get into more of that content. Those that are in a pre-AP or above situation, your dual credit, your AP, it allows them more time in that to become stronger in what they're doing to raise test scores, possible more national merits, possible more scholarship money. It does the same for some of the ones that you don't realize. Athletes and fine arts students every year have difficulty getting all of the state requirements in, because if I want to be an athlete for 4 years, I'm giving up something after that first year of credit. Okay, and so by allowing them to start switching and doing it, you get more opportunity to do that.
They're getting they're getting a credit for a class in one semester instead of an entire year.
Exactly.
So they're going to graduate with way over.
Correct. In fact, Eagle Pass made mention that one of the side effects is they had a few more early graduates. If that's the worst thing that you can say out of it, okay. Some of the pros and cons that were put together by both of the administrators, and not just from them, by taking some of the feedback and all, kind of glaze through some of the notes that were coming. Actually, I'll come back to this. I can show you. I truly appreciated their feedback from Eagle Pass, because they didn't just do, I'm a principal, so I'm just going to look through the principal lens. When Bunsen brought back the notes, she divided it up about what do we have now? What did we see that was interesting through a department chair lens, through an administrator lens, through a teacher lens, through a central office lens? That's what makes this work so valuable, is no one is doing it just in a one focus, this is my tunnel vision thing. We're trying to look everything from top to bottom and bottom to up and all the ways around. So degree of continuity, instruction, and you guys can steer me now if you want me to go through all these or just kind of give you the left-hand side thumbs up and keep moving.
No. Yes, they can get it.
So the one with the heart on it.
Which one?
That means is that those are the things that they recognize at Eagle Pass that really kind of garnered them along to reach their goal. The one with the heart are the ones that we have in our district.
Yep.
Already.
The one without the heart, they saw at Eagle Pass that we could see here.
Right.
Yes.
Which is awesome, because there's not a single viewpoint where we're not doing some really amazing things. There are some pieces, though, that we need to get better at and really take a hard look of, one, why are we not doing it? And two, if we decide to do it, what could be the possible gains from that? The heart. You want me to go to the next one? Okay. Oh, okay. Yep. It's not an early Valentine. Degree of continuity in the instruction, choice in instructional methods, pace of learning, choice in, credits, collaborative planning, PLCs. Those are all different things that we looked at. What are the pros? What are the cons? What are our needs? And so that is where we are at.
So would you say this is essentially like a hybrid model?
Very much so.
Because we've tried both. We've tried one and it works in some areas. We've tried the other, works in other areas. This is taking the best of both.
Basically.
One of the Homero's comments this morning during senior staff was about implementing a real expectation about what we do within that time then.
Yeah.
And so, you know, all of us have had experience in the block, and all of us have had experience in the 7-period day. And so, you know, a teacher that uses the block for its full capacity is the same teacher that uses that same 45-minute window. One of the things that's changed at our high schools and probably across the district is this hyper-monitoring of instruction. So we should be able to pinpoint really quickly
Right.
Areas of strength and then areas of need based on our teachers able to use that time wisely for the kids. But one of the things we've done at our high schools is we create a lot of intervention time for kids that actually takes away from their schedule and their opportunity to take electives. And in doing something like this, a teacher can actually develop their own interventions within the
That's what
classroom.
I like.
So that they can do small group instruction, which is what we're pushing
Want
for.
to.
And then with, I know Bunson's team, they're already done with their entire evaluation of their whole campus. And so they're meeting the thresholds on walkthroughs. And so there's a huge sense of hyper monitoring happening. So we too have those concerns about, you know, will the time be used? And I think as we grow, the answer would be yes. And every year we get better and better in that process. And so we haven't made the choice to move forward with this because one of the things that we want to consider is, can we really afford it? Because that's kind of a snippet of what happens in the school day with English. But if we take that model and in the next week or two, we really outline with current students, current teachers, can we make it work without adding staff? And that is the question that Brandon wants to know, right?
Right.
And I want to honor that. And so in the next couple of weeks, once we've presented to you guys, unless y'all just say completely, you know, this is not the direction that we'd like to see our campuses go, is that we'll be doing kind of a crunch time around trying to build that model to ensure that we're not going to come back to our board and say, we need more money to do this, right? So.
Well, and I want to comment to the board that the idea that struck me as the most attractive about these long blocks, and we've done it before, and we always feel there's a lot of waste of time, but increasingly we're doing RTI, and we're trying to push our better students forward. And if you give teachers a little bit more time and a little bit of structure, they have time to do the differentiation for our ADHD, for our dyslexia that are in those classrooms, and they don't get enough time from their teachers because 45 minutes is so finite. It's such a small amount of time. But then they can also maybe differentiate for the kids that need a little bit more challenging work, more challenging projects outside of just their regular assignments. So if I think we as a system can help them structure that, then I think it's a very attractive result.
So I'm going to double down on a little bit of what you said, because that planning time in there, when you see that, but the planning time already, we've started thinking and considering, and what are some protocols in that? It's not just if you don't have an extended conference period, because some of the movement we've made this year with those walkthroughs, it's been great learning. We've been able to identify down to teacher level who needs what kind of training, and that's not just within one section. We've seen it in ELL, we've seen it in SPED, there are program walks, all kinds of walks this year. That planning, putting in a very intentional expectation around when we're meeting and embedding some more PD in the school day, in those planning portions, so that we don't have to wait and twice a year to try to pull everybody out and do those things.
One of the things we've done, as a system, you guys expect us to do, is to constantly evaluate ourselves against a market group. So we've created a market group, and we've presented this information into the board and part and parcel in the past, and we might need to bring that back to you guys again. For the last 2 or 3 years, we've compared ourselves to a market group with 6 other school districts. We fare really well in reading, we outperform this ISD in math. And we do not continue that into the later years because I think there's a different philosophy. And it's a philosophy that works for us for many years. I think the point I'm trying to make is, if we go down this road, it's not going to sit well with everyone or everything, because people are going to have to give up or make other choices, or specifically in the ninth grade, I think kids will have one less elective in the ninth grade year, so that's where 3 of the 5 contested courses are, and they'll have 75 minutes all year long. So it's about what we're talking here. We had a conversation this morning, and it was a pretty intense conversation about what's our philosophy. I mean, what do we want our kids to get out? And we want their experience to be great. We want them to have opportunities outside the instructional classroom, because we know it creates interest and pathways and things we may not see. But we also want results like we see when we go past the secondary. And what stops us from getting those same results? And part of it may be because of our structure. So let's start there. Let's look at structure. But when we look at structure, it's not going to sit well with all groups. It's not going to sit well with all folks. It's not going to sit well with all students. But if we can make very conscientious choices about, do we really want our kids to have really good SAT scores, ACT, we want them to go to college, we want them to make their choices? I think we're at a point now that we've seen the benefit of elementary, and we're going to apply that to the secondary, about how we do some things and move forward.
And I thank you for sharing. I will tell you, we've got a middle school team that's chomping at the bit to be part of this too. And so, they're already trying to recreate things so that they can get.
To do this model?
Similar, yes.
That's
Not
in,
quite, but one of the things that it does help when you're looking at, just if you take CT and look at it, it is so much easier for me to plan a project in an 80-minute window than it is for me to plan to open up a classroom for 45 minutes. 5 minutes is taking attendance, and then I got 38 to figure it out. And then if you think about what would happen in that time for kids, it is truly a much better model. And going back to this idea of this is the first time I think that our leadership from the campus has been willing to work through things, including, they put athletics up there for a reason, right? Peter is very much on board with trying to figure it out so he can make it work for the staff. So what you'll notice is this will be the first time in forever that I can remember in my 20-something years where we have athletics at multiple times a day as opposed to just 2. And the reason behind that is because you pull your staff for all of their teaching core contents, but if they're all in the same athletic periods, you don't have them. And so what happens is you have all your other kids who are not athletes having to take loaded courses because you have your coaches out of capacity. And they're not, I'm not picking on them, but I do want to share that Peter's very, very much on board with, we can make this work. The leadership is on board with, we can make this work without adding staff. And I want to honor that and say, we're going to move forward with just thinking about it and planning around it. And if we come to a rub where it says, hey, we're going to have to hire 10 additional teachers, well, maybe we come back and rethink that.
Right.
Okay? But part of this is so we can move forward with the planning, because I have to get course selections out. And we're waiting on that because of structure. And we're going to, once we move forward, unless y'all just completely opposed to this, tomorrow we'll be in the planning about mapping it all out.
I want to make an observation. I feel like when the courses are so short, we're kind of almost doing an assembly line kind of thing all day, every day with the kids. It's rush, 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 rush. They come in, hurry, 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 in and out, in and out, in and out. When we give the teachers more time, there's opportunity for relationships to develop and connections to establish. And we have been talking about that for several years now. And like Dr. Versta says, we have to create the structure to facilitate that. And it seems to me like we're moving in a good direction for that as well. And they slow the kids down, slow the teachers down, force the adults and force the kids to collaborate, to talk to each other, to, be with each other.
And I know we have big, huge goals, right? We want our kids to perform well when they leave us, right?
Right.
And those are concerns. When we're talking to our higher ed partners, we have concerns about what that looks like in year 1, year 2, and how our kids struggle there. Imagine if we had an opportunity when a kid's a junior for them to take a true kind of college readiness class
Yeah.
to say, these are gonna be the things
Yes.
that you have to do if you wanna be successful when you get there. Cause our kids struggle there, and it's not because they're not smart, it's because they struggle more so with behavior, and I don't mean behavior in the discipline sense, but what
Maturity.
are my daily actions that are gonna put me in a good place to be successful in college?
Yeah.
Imagine if we had a junior level class that was around college, success,
Right.
right, what it takes.
Well,
And
what's
so-
not on there is the rest of what Eagle Pass does, and they make it very intentional. We're gonna have those types of courses. So when, let's go back to that English 3. When a student's done with English 3, you still have to have something on the other side of that. It might be in English 2, but they have done a lot of test prep embedding, prepping for those DC AP courses, college readiness courses, how do I transition into ninth grade courses. Those are some of those soft skills that we often overlook and forget about, and they are so indicative of success in the classroom and beyond.
Oh, I was just gonna ask about, the money. Have you had a chance to talk to the Eagle Pass finance guy?
I have not. I know Jason went and visited, so that's the part about, and I've asked and I've talked to CNI about transparency and seeing it, they're gonna create that plan. They didn't wanna go full force and coming up with this whole plan, and then we really didn't wanna do it. So as they build this plan, we can really look and dive into the details on what the cost would be.
Right.
Because right now, they have the same FTEs, but you gotta compare apples to apples. So you have
Right.
to see how many coaches, how many CTE teachers they have. So those are the things that.
But
we're
are
gonna
you
do.
doing that with that guy? I'm
I
just
have-
saying, cause instead of like trying to reinvent the whole thing and figure how Southwest can do it, how is Eagle Pass funding it? And
Correct. I
that
have
might,
not done that yet,
that
but
might
that's
help
something
you
that-
to go and spend a couple of days with him or her, whatever.
We do this, I know my conversation at the high school, that like in their high school, they have 5 attendance officers, they have a number of, I don't know if I have this one. But so, yeah, their structure's different, which means they give up summer, so it's about, okay, let's do more research, I think exactly what we're talking about. Let's do more research and say, what does their structure look like and how do they achieve that? Like, y'all work on ADA,
Right.
y'all work on the goals. So, where did they give up something else that they may be doing?
I just think it might be beneficial for you to go for a couple of days and
Certainly.
Sure.
talk to him and see what are his challenges, what, you know,
Right.
I think it might help you.
One thing I think that we do is we have a visiting teacher department. Instead of having that, we may just phone them out to the high school and say, this is where our issues are, predominantly for our kids. So why don't we just make it both high schools and give them their FTEs that they need to do their own thing.
Legal Pass is doing it at all high schools.
That's my understanding. I haven't been there. but
Yes.
conversation.
And that's what, like 5? Or
Yeah, we
2?
have probably 3 visits to Eagle Pass now.
Yeah, Jason went, so he kinda understands the staffing portion.
There's a little bit different with
With Wynn?
And they
I was thinking
share
of a
CPE,
regular 5.
or
Legal Pass.
they do share CPE, they run less than their main period, so there's still some questions to those who need to make it work.
Yep.
But one of the factors that, play a part of it is you're generally support to our teachers, and our teacher salary is up here, and that's the basic business. What ultimately it costs us for that to high school.
Yeah, that's good to, I mean, you know.
That's good information.
I have one comment. Yeah, and I hate to bring this up.
Here we go.
No, it's an admonition, but it's not really against this program. It's in general what we like to do every year in education, which is to change everything. And we know this is extraordinarily difficult for a teacher to change every year. And I'm not saying we really change everything every year, but that's the way it looks like to them. And so that what my suggestion is, we think as we go into the year and we're going to make these changes, we think about whatever all else we're going to change. And so that we try to come up with a plan. You know, we don't have to do everything in 1 year. I just wanted to mention that. I've mentioned it in the past.
That's a great point. You know, we haven't had a conversation about a phasing. That may be, in other words, instead of saying, it's gonna cost us this many FTEs, and we might do it, well, let's go back and say, what if we phase it in over time? Could we, make it happen. So, I mean, it's a very valid point. We do have a lot of kind of, things going on in our district, and I think we're getting to a point of system fatigue. great opportunity because next year we're ramping up for the first time ever to fully 9 through 12 high school.
Yes.
What a great time to do this.
Right.
If we're going to do something, if we can make it work. The fact that it's a hybrid and it's not either an accelerated block, AV block, or the whole system's gonna go into a block, it's gonna be a very responsible block. I love that idea. And we're learning about it, but we're gonna have to be on the fast track. I know there's excitement and eagerness from staff at the high school. And I think, they're willing to go to that and say, this is what we want. And then it costs X number of dollars, we should try to make it work.
Jason,
Which is interesting.
what was the difference?
Oh.
Or pay for teachers.
Yeah, pay per teacher.
I want to play devil's advocate to Dr. Byram and, coming from the viewpoint, I understand, of the teachers in the system, but if we go back to the viewpoint of the students, then urgency is the order of the day. Because every year that we wait, another batch of kids goes out and we feel, God, we could have done better by them, right? It's just, if my child is coming in as a freshman, that it'd be like, oh, that's great, all the new opportunities, that, my child can do so much more in her 4 years. And if my child just graduated, oh, man, we missed out.
I'd like to address that as well, Dr. Byram and Yolanda.
Well, y'all got about 2 more minutes to address.
Go, thanks. There you go, put me on the spot. Is that, as a principal, I can tell you that every year it was like something brand new coming, We don't plan on, other than a structure change in this next year, our plan, is to stay the course. And truly create a model that's a system around the work that we're doing with instructional systems. We're hoping to develop our tier 1 instruction so that it's a robust tier 1 foundation so that we do less intervention across the way. Our elementary schools right now are like trendsetters. They have really moved the needle in that work. A little bit harder at the secondary. And when you ask the question why, the question why is time. When you have an elementary that can serve a kid in reading for 95 minutes or math for 95 minutes, and you can't do that same thing in your secondary settings, then you already have this great disconnect with what can happen. And so we don't plan on changing our focus in curriculum instruction for next year. Matter of fact, we have said that over and over and over with our principals, in that this is a structure change to support that work.
It can be done in a way where they don't really even see that it's a big change.
Thank you.
Yay.
All right. You have anything else to add?
I'm good.
Thank you. That was
All
very
right,
nice.
we will not cover the enrollment report till next time. Do you have one more thing?
That's the second time Jesse got bumped to the next meeting, so I want to thank
Poor
Jesse.
Jesse, if it'd been Jesse, I had have known that. man.
Sorry.
Tell him he's first next time.
But he will be first.
All right, Jesse, you're gonna be first.
He who is first shall be
We also had a
last.
conversation this morning about changes in commencement, and I know that's a very sensitive area, and you guys get a lot of phone calls about that too. And as we kind of do this kind of work, when things leak out, you'll get a lot of phone calls. You've already received some about, you are gonna do X, Y, and Z, and I'm gonna tell you, we have a unique decision. But if we do go forward, it looks like. So we'll bring commencement in March as well.
Commencement.
Talk about the changes we want to do, not with this year, but with the years after.
What do they want to change?
Okay.
One more thing before you finish.
You're already on 3.
ATV visit, please mark your calendars for February 16th. I don't know if you guys have the application that we submitted on your behalf, but we will get it to you electronically today to the board, so you'll also see that. The board overview is at 10 a.m. that day, and we have a lunch here with our visiting judges and our board, 2 parents.
We have 2 parents, 2 teachers, 2 students, 2 community leaders, and 2 principals that will be attending that lunch.
And it
They
says-
all like us,
We'll
Jeff?
be right here.
You want us to come?
She knows everybody on the board.
It doesn't, in that, it says it's not necessary for board members to attend that luncheon.
It is
It
not
says,
necessary, but I think
It's
it
that
would be.
HEB board.
Hey, as bad as we are, we better not show up.
Oh, the 16th.
10 a.m. the board members have to be.
Oh, okay.
After our little meeting, we don't have to.
Can you send us a reminder?
we'll get more information out, just telling you, we're kind of identifying some folks that we would like to be here.
But she said we have to be here at 10. What are you insinuating, Miss Sarah?
Heart Run, Saturday, February 17th.
I'll have you know, Dr. Lloyd Burstup sometimes gets emails from me at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning.
District 4, which is Councilor Saldana, Basura, Ash, where they go around and clean up some neighborhoods.
Basura.
Yes, it's a hard copy. I looked at it.
Ask you to mark your calendars for the morning of February 19th.
Okay.
It's our traditional cowboy breakfast in the morning, and then we have kind of a second conversation. We have a speaker coming in, kind of feedback on the inspirational messaging about
Thank you.
half of the year, and so we want that work to be recognized as well.
What'd you say, February 19th?
February 19th, Monday, February 19th.
Okay.
The, like 6:30 to 8 for breakfast, then we go right to convocation.
What?
6:30.
Convocation?
Like in the sleet and the rain.
Are we
Yeah.
having another convocation? We have to go to that thing too?
You don't have to, but we'd like to have.
Like the normal one in August?
It will be a kind of scaled down version of that,
Yeah.
but an opportunity for everyone to kind of get inspired for themselves. Last half of the very,
Oh, two
You get
convocations.
inspired when you're mine.
6:30.
I'm looking forward to that, that's gonna be fun.
It's like a pep, is it like a pep talk?
Yes.
It's like a pep
All
talk.
right, we down to 30 seconds.
Midway through the year.
Shall I do it, Bob?
Goodbye.
8 a.m. Where's it at?
Never
Where's
really
the
know.
breakfast at?
Go ahead, do it.
Right here?
Hate to interrupt you.
The convocation's probably gonna be inside, we have our roll
No.
the mall again.
Looking at everything around, we move that the meeting adjourn.